Hello and welcome to the Boost Over Ball podcast, your go-to place for everything Rocket League with your hosts, K-Cube, AJ Binky, and Red. So lean forward, lock in, and get ready to go Boost Over Ball.
Hello and welcome back to the Boost Over Ball podcast. To listeners new and old, hello and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Kyle, K-Cube, and today I am going another solo episode due to the holiday weekend, some vacation plans, and some other commitments. I am the only one who can get this episode up this week, and I wanted to do a quick little episode before next week when we do our official Worlds preview episode. But on today's episode, I will be discussing the play-ins, who I think will make the top 20, if NA is chalked, or if, we're going to get a fifth spot, and, etc. Then I will talk about some of the storylines coming into Lyon, some of the overarching themes that I think a lot of people will be interested to find out and look for, as well as a few other things before we wrap up for today. All of this keeping in mind that we will go much more in depth into all of this stuff next week when we do our full predictions. We have the full crew handy, and we can have more opinions and voices than just mine. But without further ado, let's jump right into the play-ins. So the play-ins are double elimination, so meaning you lose two, you're out, you win two, you're in. And so our play-in, our matchups are set. We have Mibber, M-I-B-R, which is the former Corinthians roster of Brad, Drops, and Razebull, playing against Gen G Mobile 1, which is Magic Bear Cheese Justin. We have ROC Esports from Mina, which is Twiz, Abdullah, and Ghazi, playing against Foot Esports, which is VK Salen, Lioro, and Torres, representing SSA. We have Shopify Rebellion, a team of two-piece, Reddles, and Wavy, coming up against Virtus Pro, which is a team of Catalysm, Sosa, and Sphinx. We have, last but not least, we have Ninjas in Pajamas, which is Nas, Oski, and Radosin. Yes, Radosin, world champion Radosin, playing against TSM, which is Super Lucky, Amphis, and Kaka. So, for people who have not been paying attention thus far, Gen G, Foot, Virtus Pro, and TSM all made it to Worlds on merit through their RLCS points, through qualification to majors, and etc. However, due to the play-in format, the lowest four points placing teams from the lowest four placing regions will have a player, or a team rather, that will be going up against these last chance qualifier teams from each of the regions. So because EU and Mina outperformed all of the other region, and Sam outperformed all of the other regions, they do not have a team that will be in the wildcard play-ins. So that means that Gen G Mobile 1, Foot, Virtus Pro, and TSM are all there because they were the lowest scoring team from the lowest scoring regions that made the World Championships. And, our last chance qualifier teams will have a chance to beat them to punch their ticket, so to speak, into the top 20 or the group stage of the World Championships, and at least have, whatever kind of shot that they think they have, but they will have a shot at the title. So we're going to go match by match here. So we have Mibber versus Gen G Mobile 1, and this is a tough series to predict. I think that they looked very good in their last chance qualifier. I think that Razebull is on LAN is always something to watch. We've seen him do some crazy and awesome things. We've seen him continue to perform at the highest level. He's back home. He does not have that homesickness that he had a little bit, and one of the reasons for him leaving Complexity. But you can't really count out world champion Justin. He's got he's the only world champion of the six of them here. They started to look good towards the end of the season, but they did not get the results that they wanted, dropping out in groups in Raleigh. So this is, in my opinion, probably the most hotly contested match of this first round. And for me, unfortunately, I have Mibber taking this one. I just think that Razebull and the high-flying, former Corinthians roster will be too much for Gen.G here. That does not necessarily mean that they're not going to qualify later, but I have Mibber here. In the next matchup, ROC versus Foot, I have ROC winning. I think that they looked awesome. I think that Mina is, continues to prove themselves on the world stage with Twisted Minds performing so well in Raleigh and Falcons winning the whole event. So that, they finally gotten the monkey off their back, so to speak, and won their first RLCS event. So I think it's only up from here for them. And the region as well. And, we've seen ROC take games off Falcons. We've seen them take games off Twisted. I think that they are a very good team, and I will be very interested to see how they can compete against the rest of the world. In our third matchup, we have Shopify Rebellion and Virtus Pro. I think Shopify is just a little bit of a step above Virtus Pro. While, they've had some great results this season and some good finishes, I just think Shopify is a better team. I think the addition of Wavy, kind of adds a little bit of offense that they were missing with Parth. And so this new look roster looked very good in the Last Chance qualifiers in NA. Last but certainly not least, we have Ninjas in Pajamas and TSM. I think that this is not going to be very much of a game. As a group, we've kind of slept on OCE a little bit, and Super Lucky, Emphas, Kaka is a good roster, but for OCE, however, I just think Nas, Oski, and Radosin are just a few steps above. So I have Ninjas in Pajamas taking out TSM in this first round. So moving up to our upper bracket semifinals, we have Mibber and ROC. I am a believer in this Mibber team. I think that they are able to take ROC here, but I think ROC will bounce back in a big way. But I have Mibber taking this first upper bracket spot. Secondly, in this next matchup, I have Shopify Rebellion versus Ninjas in Pajamas. I think that Ninjas take this. I think that they're probably the best team in the play-in on skill and ability alone. Whether they can put it together or whether they can continue to play like everyone expects them to, that is a different story. Which Radosin do we get? Is it job security Radosin, or is it the Radosin that tanked Gentle Mate season? Only time will tell on that one, but for this matchup, for the ability to play in the World Championship group stage, I have Ninjas in Pajamas here. So our two teams qualifying through the upper bracket in this scenario for me are Mibber and Ninjas in Pajamas, and in the lower bracket quarterfinals, we have Gen.G Mobile 1 against Foot. And unfortunately for Foot and Harmonic, I have Gen.G winning this one. I just think that they're a better team, but a good showing from Foot, winning 6 regionals, almost, still being the only team to never get swept in a LAN this season. That's, nothing to shake a fist at. And in our second matchup, we have Virtus Pro and TSM, and here I have Virtus Pro winning. I think, again, they've shown it this season so far, and we've seen that OCE is not as good of a region as we originally thought, so we will have to wait and see, obviously, but I have Virtus Pro here. Next up in our lower bracket semifinals, we have Gen.G Mobile 1 facing off against Shopify Rebellion. So unfortunately for NA, a little bit of friendly fire here, but I feel like there's a reason that Gen.G is, already in and didn't have to go through last chance qualifiers. And I think that shows through here. I have Gen.G taking this one and qualifying through our first lower bracket spot. I think that they're just a little bit better. I think that the experience from Justin will really help them out. And, I think that they're the better team. So, last but certainly not least, in our last play-in match, we have Virtus Pro versus ROC, and I think ROC will be a little bit too much for Virtus Pro here in this instance, and I see them just being able to make pretty quick work of this one. Virtus Pro has had a great season, but I don't think they're good enough to compete with MENA 3 in this instance. So our 4 teams qualifying through, in my personal opinion and predictions, is Mibber, Ninjas in Pajamas, Gen.G Mobile 1, and ROC. So That being said, I have Mibra as the number 1 seed playing against Dignitas in Group A, in a group with Wildcard and Furia. We have Ninjas in Pajamas as the number 2 seed playing against NRG, and then also with Twisted Minds and Team Secret. Number 3, I have Gen G Mobile 1, which will be playing against Team Falcons and with Space Station and Vitality. And in group number 4, playing against Carmine Corps, I have ROC, also in a group with The Ultimates and GK Esports. So we shall see if that is indeed how it plays out. But that is what my predictions are right now. I'm sure that we will do a group prediction next week, in addition to our Worlds preview that we've been doing. But that is where we currently stand. I'm going to save most of the Worlds preview for next week when we have a full squad, and it'll be a lot more entertaining for everyone and a lot more voices to be able to attribute and to talk about ball and rock, as CJ would say. But secondly, let's move on to a couple of storylines that I think people should be looking out for as we head into the World Championships. The first and foremost being that this is the first RLCS LAN event in France. It's not Paris, but we're still in France. The French Rocket League community is one of the most rabid and supportive fan bases in the world. I don't think I don't think it's close. We've seen the French talent for Rocket League. We've seen how much they, kind of dominate the scene. And I will be very, very, very intrigued to watch how the fans interact, how loud the crowd is, what kind of crowd participation and cheers that we have, if it's going to be similar to a soccer or for our, European viewers for a football match. I am very intrigued to see what it looks like, what the presentation's like, and just how loud that crowd is. That will be very, very entertaining to watch. The second storyline I think that we can kind of look out for is after talking with Sathu, talking with Beast Mode, they have kind of said that they enjoy being the villains. They kind of like not being the crowd favorite. They got something to prove, somebody to fight against. So I'm curious to see if they still have this opinion leaving the World Championships versus coming into it, as we've never had an event in France, like I said before. So I think that this crowd could be much more influential than crowds in the past. So again, we'll have to, catch up with any interviews that they do afterwards and see what they think about that. But, really the big one for me is, can NA get a 5th seed, right? We've kind of seen, other than NRG, kind of some of the NA depth fall by the wayside. We have Gen G not making groups. We have the Ultimates and Space Station both kind of, for lack of a better term, shit in the bed and not performing, up to the standards that they would certainly like. So it's kind of really been NRG on an island versus the world pretty much, where we've seen, Dignitas kind of emerging recently. Carmine is, Carmine, you can never count out Monkey Moon and Vitality come World Championship time. And, we saw at the Esports World Cup what GK can do. So we will have to wait and see, there, but they certainly seem to be a pretty big region, right? OCE, I don't necessarily think poses an enormous threat here to NA's ability to move further into the tournament. But MENA is another region, right? Falcons have won their first event. They're kind of, they will always be circling, right? The 3 most dangerous letters in Rocket League, TRK, has played fantastically recently, and I think that he will be looking to continue that form in France. We have Twisted Minds, right? You can't count out Rise's most veteran, most LAN games of all time. Nubo has been an absolute revelation this season. He's looked incredible, and they've been able to have some big upsets. Furia will want to bounce back as they, completely underperformed expectations in Raleigh, and Secret looked good, making a top 6 run. There's a lot of things to look out for. I think APAC OCE and SSA unfortunately don't really factor a ton into this, but maybe maybe they're good for one upset that you're not expecting. But realistically, I think your teams to watch are going to be, how do the Ultimates bounce back? How can they, kind of stabilize the ship a little bit and try to take some of the burden off of NRG in terms of NA representation, and what is Monkey Moon going to do, right? Zen and Monkey Moon, I think, are inevitable, especially this time of year. Monkey Moon, the two-time, everyone on that team has a world championship. I think that they're just a fantastic team. I think that they, it looked like they started to put it together at the Esports World Cup until, kind of it all fell apart in the end for them in Game 7. Not fell apart, but they just, couldn't get the job done. So, I think realistically, you're probably, the favorites to me seem to be Karmine Corp, NRG, Falcons kind of seem to be the three that are circling the drain as the most likely options to win the world championship. But I think kind of in that chase group, you have Dignitas, Vitality, the Ultimates, maybe a Furia, or and I think that kind of rounds out your teams most likely to take a run at this world championship. But like I said, this is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode as I talk through some of the storylines, talk about the play-ins, and don't want to steal too much content from ourselves as we move forward, because next week will be our Worlds preview episode. We'll do our predictions. We'll talk about everything. Next Tuesday night at the normal time at 8 p.m. Eastern is when we'll go live and when we'll start doing that stuff. But with that, we would like to thank you so much for listening. We'd like to remind everyone that this podcast is proudly brought to you by our name level supporters on Patreon, Alyssa B. We'd like to please remind everyone to rate us 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts, share the show, tell a friend. It all helps us grow our audience and improve the show. Remember to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Twitch, and also come join our Discord. Come talk some ball, come talk some rock. We always enjoy talking with everybody. If you have any questions about leagues that you might want to join, about RLCS, about anything Rocket League related, or even rematch related, I think that we will be able to answer that. So by all means, come stop by, come talk to us, and say hello. All of these links and more that I talked about earlier can be found on our website at boostoverball.com. And from us here on the show, as always, remember to choose Boost over Ball. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Boost Over Ball podcast. Make sure to check out our website at boostoverball.com.